Mysteries of the Beyond warmly greets you, dear viewers and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, human life is not simply measured by milestones, accolades, or material achievements. The true journey of being human unfolds in silent cycles, hidden beneath layers of skin, memory, and the ego. Every 7 years, both body and consciousness quietly transform and renew themselves. This reading does not aim to dictate how you should live or what path you must follow. It simply rests a gentle hand on your shoulder and whispers, "Life has already passed by this much, hasn't it? So why not take a moment to pause and reflect? How have you changed?" Part 1. From Birth to Age 7. The Child as the Center of the Universe. Human life doesn't move in a straight line. We grow in spirals, in waves, and with each cycle of 7 years, there is a subtle shift in direction. This idea is not superstition, but the result of centuries of observation, from physiology, developmental psychology, and classical philosophy, both Western and Eastern. According to various scientists and philosophers like Rudolf Steiner, founder of anthroposophy, life unfolds in 7-year stages. Each stage represents the shedding of an old layer of the soul and the emergence of a new self. Modern biological studies confirm this view. Every cell in the human body, including the brain, skin, digestive system, and energetic structure, is fully renewed every 7 years. Thus, our lives form a miraculous current flowing through 10 7-year portals, beginning from the moment we take our first breath and culminating in a completed circle of existence at the threshold of 70 years. The first leg of this journey starts in the most instinctual and pure place. The imperial ego is born. If you've ever cared for a newborn, you'll understand. They live like little kings in their private castles. Their universe revolves entirely around their needs. When hungry, they must be fed. When cold, they must be warmed. When distressed, someone must soothe them immediately. If these needs are not met, the child cries out, screams, or even flails. There's no patience or understanding, just raw, unfiltered demand. The child knows nothing beyond itself. Psychology calls this the phase of the primal ego. At this stage, the child cannot distinguish between self and the world. To them, everything is an extension of their being. Parents are servants. The room is a royal chamber, and time and space exist solely to please them. And this is entirely natural. During the first 7 years of life, the human brain operates predominantly in theta and delta waves, similar to deep meditation or dreaming. The child lives in a world that is part dream, part reality, where the boundaries between imagination and existence are fluid. They believe the sun rises for them, the moon glows for them. They are the unquestioned center of the cosmos. It's no coincidence that developmental psychologists such as Jean Piaget have pointed out that during this phase, children are completely self-referential. They are not selfish. They simply cannot yet comprehend that other people have thoughts or emotions different from their own. So what happens inside the body and brain during this phase? From birth to age 7 is the critical period for central nervous system development. It is also a golden window for the formation of language, emotional intelligence, and the foundational sense of safety. The brain develops more rapidly in this phase than at any other time in life. The child absorbs the world like a sponge, taking in everything from their environment. But they do not learn through logic. Instead, they learn through feeling, sensation, and emotional experience. Everything they absorb is etched into their subconscious, forming the core beliefs that guide their lives. If a child is neglected, shamed, or scolded without reason, these early wounds imprint into the psyche as invisible scars, painful and difficult to heal later. That's why unconditional love, protection, and understanding in the first 7 years are vital. They shape how the child sees the world. Is life a safe place or a threatening one? Are people trustworthy or dangerous? Am I worthy of love or am I a burden? The life lesson of the 0-7 stage is this. If you are a parent, a close relative, or someone with life experience, remember this. A child in their early years does not need moral lectures. They need a living example. They learn from how you react when you're frustrated. They learn through how you show affection or how you express irritation for no reason. They do not hear your words as much as they absorb your expressions, your energy, your very presence. Every breath you take, every quiet moment you create in your home, it all matters. This little emperor doesn't need a throne. They just need a kingdom where love is the law. And then the child steps into a new realm. As we prepare to enter the next phase, from age 7 to 14, the universe seems to widen. At the threshold of 7 years old, something extraordinary begins to occur. The child lifts their gaze from the mirror of self and begins to wonder. What do others think? Why are things the way they are? Who made this world? Their mind slowly detaches from the imperial ego, and the doors to exploration and curiosity swing open. The search for truth begins. In summary, Part 1. The period from birth to age 7 is when the primal ego is formed, a time when the child lives at the absolute center of the universe. This is the stage of emotional absorption, the formation of the foundational unconscious, and the laying of groundwork for the entire personality that follows. Part 2. From age 7 to 14. The expanding ego and the birth of doubt. At the age of 7, something nearly miraculous begins to unfold. The child starts to leave behind the cocoon of safety built around the imperial ego they lived in throughout the early years. That grand illusion, where the self was the center of the universe, slowly begins to fade. No longer does the child perceive themselves as the axis around which all things turn. Instead, they raise their gaze to the world around them, and for the first time, reality begins to emerge in its true form. The mind stirs and starts to question, why is the sky blue? Why do people die? Why can't I have more candy? Why must I go to school? In this stage, the child becomes a young skeptic, a curious soul filled with endless questions. Their developing logic is simple, but emotionally vibrant. While they are no longer entirely governed by imagination, as in the previous stage, they still lack the capacity for deep reasoning like adults. This is when the brain transitions from theta waves to more alpha frequencies, a sign that the rational mind is slowly being trained. Psychologists refer to this as the questioning phase, a time when the child shifts focus from needing constant care like a tiny monarch to trying to understand the mechanisms behind the world they live in. And amid this curiosity, a powerful transformation begins, attachment to same-gender peers. During this phase, children start forming close bonds with others of the same sex. Boys gravitate toward boys, girls toward girls. These friendships, forged between the ages of 7 and 14, are regarded as the purest and most profound of childhood. Why? Because they are untouched by gender identity, sexuality, or ambition. They are built on shared games, mutual trust, and emotional resonance. According to child development researchers, this is the only stage in life where friendship is created with no hidden motive, no calculation, only sincerity. As children approach adolescence and hormonal changes kick in, these pure dynamics inevitably begin to shift. At the same time, self-awareness dawns. Unlike the earlier stage, when the child was psychologically merged with the identity of the parents, seeing them almost as part of their own self, this new phase brings psychological separation. The child begins to recognize, I am not my parents, I am a distinct individual. They start to form their own world, their own secrets, and their own inner emotional life. Feelings like embarrassment, shame, and rebellion start to appear. This is also when children become particularly sensitive to comparison, criticism, or emotional wounds inflicted by adults. A single careless remark about their appearance or an untimely scolding can leave deep marks in their psyche. That's why the role of the adult, whether parent, teacher, or mentor, becomes critical at this stage. They are no longer servants or caretakers as before. Now they must become guides, companions, and facilitators of the child's emerging inner life. Meanwhile, the body and brain prepare for an approaching storm, the hormonal awakening. Around the age of 12, children begin entering the pre-puberty phase. This is the body's way of preparing for the sweeping changes to come in the next cycle. The pituitary gland becomes highly active, and sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone begin increasing. Sleep becomes more important than ever, as this is when the body recalibrates its internal systems and accelerates growth. If parents are unaware of this process, they may misunderstand their child's mood swings as defiance. But in truth, this is the time when children need to be heard more than ever. They long to be trusted like grown-ups, but still crave the comfort and protection of childhood. This inner tug-of-war is entirely natural, and it signals that a new doorway is about to open. The life philosophy of the 7-14 age stage. If the period from 0 to 7 years was a lesson in unconditional love, then the period from 7 to 14 is a lesson in curiosity, exploration, and the forming of personal identity. Children at this stage need space to wonder. They need patient mentors. They need to feel seen, acknowledged, and spoken to as individuals on the path to adulthood, not treated like ignorant little kids. This phase is not just about building intellectual foundations. It is the cornerstone of how the child will view themselves for the rest of their life. Am I smart? Am I lovable? Do I matter? Each of these questions, if answered with care and respect, becomes a guiding belief for the decades ahead. To summarize Part 2, the period from 7 to 14 years old is the time when a child's ego expands, shifting from a self-centered world to a social one, and begins the lifelong journey of asking questions about themselves, about others, and about life. This is the stage where intellect is shaped, friendships deepen, skepticism takes root, and the journey toward true adulthood begins. Part 3, from ages 14 to 21. Desires, love, and the storms of youth. By the age of 14, the child is no longer a child. This is the moment when the third door opens, when both the inner world and the physical body undergo a simultaneous, profound transformation. This 7-year cycle is one of fiery intensity, of bursting energy, but also of deep conflict and disorientation. Among all the cycles of human life, this one is perhaps the most turbulent and the most formative. If the previous cycle, from 7 to 14, was marked by an affinity for same-gender friendships and a quest for connection through sameness, now the compass begins to shift. From age 14 onward, the mind and heart start reaching outward in new directions. Friendships begin to take a back seat to unfamiliar, magnetic emotions. Those first shy glances between boys and girls, or between any two awakening souls, carry a bewildering force, stirring feelings that are impossible to ignore. And thus, the human being takes their first step into the realm of love, that sweet yet stormy territory. Psychologists describe this as the phase of adolescent affection, where emotions are raw and powerful, yet not yet tempered by maturity. A single gaze can make the heart race for a week. An unanswered message can cast a shadow for a month. Every feeling is magnified, every reaction intense. But love is only one layer. Beneath these emotional waves flows something deeper, a yearning to become someone, to stand out, to matter. The adolescent mind starts to project into the future. What will I do with my life? Will I be admired? Can I shine among the crowd? Questions of personal worth, career, and achievement begin to emerge with growing urgency. As the years move toward 17, 18, and up to 21, the inner inquiry grows bolder. How will I live in this world? Am I different from my parents? Do I really want to follow their path or create my own? This is the season of identity crisis, where the desire to be one's true self collides with the fear of rejection. Neuroscientific research confirms that during this phase, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for reasoning, self-control, and long-term planning, is still in development. This helps explain why young people often make impulsive decisions, driven more by emotion than logic. Mistakes in love, money, or relationships are common. But isn't this part of the sacred chaos of youth? The last stage of innocent idealism. People live passionately, love deeply, and believe unconditionally. Even after heartbreak, they dream again. Even after failure, they rise again. Youth dares to believe that the world can be changed and that they might be the ones to do it. Yet without guidance, this is also a stage where one can easily go astray. Academic pressure, family conflict, feelings of inadequacy, and societal expectations can push a young person into anxiety, self-destruction, or harmful behaviors. A single thoughtless remark from an adult, a cruel joke, a dismissal of effort, can leave a lasting scar. What young people need during this time is not control, but understanding. They don't need rigid instruction. They need someone to walk beside them as a wise friend. Eastern philosophy says, at 30, a person stands firm, but the foundation for that stability is sown in the soil of adolescence, from 14 to 21. If these years are nurtured with love, trust, and patience, the young adult will enter the next cycle of life with strength and clarity. But if neglected, if pressured, if wounded, without healing, the echoes of this fragile stage will reverberate through future decades. Many adults, when looking back, sigh and say, if only I had been wiser at 20. If only someone had told me at 16 that I didn't have to be perfect. But youth does not need perfection. Youth only needs space to be authentic. And if you are in this phase, or know a child, grandchild, or student walking through it, remember this. Sometimes, all it takes is one adult who listens at the right moment to save a soul that is lost in searching. From age 14 to 21 is the season of storms. But it is also the season when the seeds of life's great trees are planted. To summarize, Part 3. The period from 14 to 21 is the age of first love, big dreams, soaring ambition, and deep confusion. This is the cycle of identity, of intense emotions, and the beginning of the core values that will shape a truly mature self. Part 4. From 21 to 28. The first adventure, the peak of ambition, and the first fall. If the years between 14 and 21 represent the season of sowing dreams, then the phase from 21 to 28 is when we truly step out into life, trying to realize those dreams in the real world. This is the age when one carries within an irresistible longing, an urge to prove oneself. No longer driven solely by emotions or idealistic fantasies like at 17, people at this stage begin to live with a new clarity, one fueled by ambition and alert determination. I want to make a name for myself. I want success. I want to leave a mark. These desires echo loudly within. According to many modern psychologists, especially Erik Erikson, the theorist behind the stages of psychosocial development, this period marks the pursuit of social identity, long-term love, and a meaningful, stable career. And yet, therein lies the beauty and the risk of this stage, the mix of passionate energy and illusions. Emerging into the adult world, people view life with wide eyes and burning hearts. Every challenge seems conquerable. Every summit seems within reach. This is the time when many dive headfirst into major projects, commit to their first serious job, fall into their first mature relationship, and begin dreaming about marriage, financial stability, and future homes. But deep inside, they are still like children learning to walk, trying to balance on their own feet for the first time. And so it's no surprise that this stage is often marked by first failures. A business might collapse. A love may not last. A chosen career path might suddenly feel wrong. In truth, very few people at this age end up doing exactly what they dreamed of as children. Most of them stumble, struggle, and recalibrate. And that's not only okay, it's necessary. Because only when we fall do we truly understand the hardness of the ground. Only through pain do we learn caution. Only after rejection do we grasp the value of patience and humility. The years from 21 to 28 form a real adventure. In this journey, a person is the driver, the passenger, the map, and the guiding light, all at once. There is no one to tell you exactly where to go, and that's what makes this period both overwhelming and rich with possibility. Through each decision, right or wrong, you begin to discover your true direction. In this phase, loneliness also begins to make itself known. Unlike at 18, when friends seemed ever present, now everyone starts getting busier with their own lives. The calls become fewer, the gatherings more rare. Sometimes you realize you're on your own, handling your meals, your bills, your quiet heartbreaks. And that's how you begin to mature, not because you choose to, but because no one else can do it for you anymore. Love, too, becomes more grounded in this phase. People no longer love just to feel. They love to stay, to build a future. And this very desire makes relationships more fragile, because now it's no longer just about feelings, it's about responsibility, about the future, about the pressure to be stable. Under that weight, many relationships crack, promises are broken, people drift apart, not out of a lack of love, but because they simply aren't strong enough yet to walk the hard path together. This is also the phase when many get married. And sadly, it's also when many marriages begin to go wrong from the root. People marry because it's time, because of family pressure, because of fear of being alone. They forget that marriage can't be built from fear. It must rise from knowing who you truly are. If there is one piece of advice for this stage of life, perhaps it's this. Don't rush to have it all by your early 20s. Because the truth is, no one really has it all at 20. What you need most during this time is not perfection. You need experience to help you discover what truly matters to you. The years between 21 and 28 are like your first solo road trip. At first, your hands shake on the wheel. You may take wrong turns, hit potholes, even crash a few times. But those shaky starts, those little accidents, are how you eventually learn to steer with confidence and grace. And then, as you approach 28, you pause. You look back at the road you've traveled, and whether you sigh in relief or whisper with a tinge of regret, one thing is certain: you've grown. To summarize part 4, the period from 21 to 28 is when we truly step into the world. We chase ambition, face our first real failures, learn to stand tall, love with greater realism, and walk through the inescapable life lessons that shape us into who we're meant to be. Part 5. From 28 to 35, choosing a path, laying foundations, and meeting yourself again. By the time you reach 28, life begins to shift pace. The burning energy and reckless passion of your early 20s start to quiet. And yet, you haven't quite reached the calm stillness that often comes after 40. This stage acts as a bridge, connecting the dreams of youth with the demands of reality. It carries within it both the texture of aspirations and the shape of grounded responsibility. This is the cycle in which life asks you to make serious, lasting choices. The margin for error is no longer what it once was. Each decision now, whether about career, marriage, or having children, tends to leave a longer-lasting imprint on the journey ahead. If you married early, this is likely when you begin to realize that marriage is not only about affection, it's a commitment. It's a working partnership. It demands patience, compromise, and sometimes more silence than words. You start to understand, falling in love is easy. Living together is the real challenge. Differences start to surface, ones that can't be so easily overlooked like they were in the beginning. And for many, thoughts of separation or divorce begin to emerge for the first time. If you're still unmarried, the pressure starts to come from outside. Family nudges, friends settle down one by one, and social conversations start to carry more loaded questions. When are you getting married? Or, have you met someone yet? Even if you're comfortable living independently, the world seems to insist that you should be partnered by now. But it's not just relationships that bring inner tension. Career becomes a major crossroad as well. After years of trial and error, job changes, and failed starts, you begin to grasp what you're good at, what aligns with your nature, and where you need to stop searching. Yet often these realizations arrive too late to act on freely. Financial commitments, debt, and adult responsibilities might make it impossible to pivot as easily as before. From 28 to 35, you take on more roles than ever before. You're an employee, a husband or wife, a parent, a son or daughter. These roles don't come one at a time. They call your name all at once. And you're expected to perform them all fully, even when your spirit feels exhausted. This is also when your body starts to whisper warnings. You no longer stay up all night without consequence. You can't eat carelessly without worrying about weight or digestion. Illnesses take longer to heal. Your body is changing quietly, and if you ignore it now, you may pay for it later with years of fatigue. From 28 to 35 is also the stage when you meet yourself again, this time in the most honest way possible. You stop decorating your identity. You stop living to please others. You no longer have the time nor the energy to live recklessly. And so you begin to ask the deeper questions. Am I living the way I truly want? Is this path really mine, or something I borrowed? If there is one key word for this cycle, it is authentic maturity. Maturity isn't about how much money you make or how many titles you collect. It's about knowing when to stay silent, when to say no, when to rest without guilt, when to love without losing yourself, and how to choose a life that fits both your strength and your soul. In Eastern philosophies, many schools believe that by the age of 35, a person will go through an inner rebirth, if they are living consciously. Sometimes this awakening is triggered by a painful event, a loss, a shock, a sudden collapse, but often it arrives quietly. You grow tired of noise. You lose interest in comparisons. You begin to crave peaceful evenings with your children rather than wild nights out. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop needing to win. You only want to live truthfully, deeply, and meaningfully. And that desire is a powerful signal. It means you are entering a new cycle, a place where inner peace begins to replace the endless chase for external validation. From 28 to 35, a person stops running and starts digging inward. And when you dig deep enough, you may discover something remarkable. What you've been searching for all along was never out there. It was always here, within you. To summarize Part 5, from 28 to 35 is the cycle of selection and rebirth. You are called to make meaningful decisions about career, family, love, health, and above all, to live in alignment with your truest self. This is the deepest transformation of all life stages, quiet on the outside, but powerful within. Part 6, from 35 to 42, entering middle age, facing crisis, and living closer to the true self. From the age of 35 to 42, one enters the quiet yet intense crossroads of midlife. This is a stage that, on the surface, often appears the most stable. People usually have a family, a profession, a home, and a certain social standing. And yet, paradoxically, this is also the time when many begin to feel an unfamiliar emptiness rising within. It's not because they lack anything, but because there is simply too much. Too many rules, too many expectations, too many responsibilities pulling them in different directions. Somewhere along the way, they lose touch with themselves and the very life they built. This is the age when many people wake up in the middle of the night, weighed down by a heaviness they cannot quite name. Outwardly, their life may seem full, but inwardly, they begin to question everything. Am I living the right way? Am I still myself? Why do I keep moving forward? What is it all for? Psychologists refer to this as the early stage of the midlife crisis. But unlike the wild impulsiveness of youth, this crisis is quieter, more persistent, and harder to define. Sometimes it appears as a chronic sense of fatigue. Sometimes it shows up as a loss of motivation, and at other times it bursts forth in dramatic change, a secret affair, a sudden career shift, or the decision to walk away from everything once deemed secure. During this stage, many begin to look back at old dreams they once shelved. Some feel regret for not having lived more authentically. Others find themselves wanting to change careers, return to unfinished studies, or simply live at a slower pace. Some sit quietly watching their children grow, and in doing so, realize how much of themselves has slowly faded into the background. This is when a deeper sense of self begins to awaken. It's no longer about achieving success. It becomes a longing to live meaningfully. It's no longer about proving anything. It becomes about understanding oneself. In Eastern philosophy, this is often referred to as the turning of fate. After the age of 35, those who do not live in alignment with their inner truth begin to experience physical and emotional decline. But those who learn to shift inward, who begin to listen and adjust, may discover that this stage brings the most profound form of personal renewal. Physically, changes also become apparent. The body slows down. Hormonal fluctuations increase. Early signs of aging appear. Even those who once felt invincible may now experience chronic back pain, insomnia, fatigue, or weight gain. These may seem like small concerns, but they are the body's way of whispering, "You need to live differently now." If the years from 28 to 35 were about building a fortress in the outer world, then from 35 to 42 is the time to build a home within the mind. You need a safe place to return to, an inner stability strong enough to withstand the storms of family duties and career pressures. No one else can build that sanctuary for you. Only you can do it. This is also the stage when people begin to let go more deeply, no longer striving to meet everyone's expectations, no longer carrying the weight of every demand, no longer trying to please the world. You begin to refine your relationships. You speak less, but more honestly. You find joy in solitude, not because you are lonely, but because you are growing into a more complete version of yourself. At this age, you start to clearly see who will walk with me for the long haul, who understands me without needing explanations, who makes me feel lighter simply by being present. You begin to sense it's time to live more lightly, more truthfully, and with greater balance. Many people in this phase turn to meditation, philosophy, or spiritual practices, not because they are free, but because they seek an anchor more lasting than material success. Some start journaling, others exercise consistently, eat more mindfully, or make time to be present with their children. They revisit small joys that were once overlooked, simple routines that quietly heal the soul. These seemingly ordinary things become a quiet medicine, an invisible process of midlife rebirth. If we were to give this stage a name, it would be the season of purification, a time to cleanse the mind, the body, the relationships, and the old emotional wounds that still linger. You are no longer the person chasing after achievements. You are becoming the one who learns to find peace within the imperfections of life. To summarize Part 6, the period from 35 to 42 is a time suspended between stability and crisis. It is the moment when life invites you inward to face your truest self and to learn how to live with less pressure, fewer expectations, and deeper peace as you prepare to enter the second half of life. Part 7. From 42 to 49, when everything is laid on the table and looked at again. The age of 42 does not arrive with the sound of an alarm. It enters quietly, with gentle, almost imperceptible sighs. One morning, as you brush your hair, you notice a few silver strands. One afternoon, while sitting in your car, a sudden twinge in your chest stirs memories of someone long gone from your life. One routine medical visit reveals a doctor's advice: you need to change your lifestyle. Nothing dramatic, yet each of these moments whispers a new season of life has begun. The phase from 42 to 49 is unlike any other. It is not quite the peak, nor is it a descent. It feels like standing on a high ridge. From there you can see what lies ahead, and you can clearly look back at what has already passed. And it is in this reflective moment that many begin to ponder deeply. How many years have I lived for others? What have I sacrificed to get where I am today? How many years do I have left to truly live for myself? This is when people start redefining happiness. It's no longer about the big house, the fancy car, the prestigious title, or social admiration. It becomes about a dinner with laughter, a day without a headache from pressure, a night of deep sleep unburdened by unpaid bills. Those once wildly successful may begin to feel hollow. Those who settled early may feel a quiet regret. Those who chased money relentlessly may discover that wealth cannot soothe the loneliness of walking alone into a hospital room. Not everyone feels this pain, clearly, but most sense a silent weight inside, a persistent unease rooted in the soul. These are the wounds we never tended to in our youth, the strain we bore alone, the times we were dismissed, belittled, or forced into silence to protect a household, a title, or an image. And if left unaddressed, these emotional tumors take their toll. Some become irritable without reason. Some fall into depression. Some withdraw, becoming shadows in their own homes. Some respond destructively, by cheating, quitting, or even harming themselves. But here lies the paradox. This is also the exact age when, if we listen closely, if we pause and face ourselves with honesty, we may enter one of the most profound transformations of our entire lives. You begin to learn to let go, not of life, but of the illusions that exhausted you. You no longer care to impress. You no longer crave praise. You simply want to live simply and with inner clarity. At this age, many people return to the subtle and sacred. Practicing meditation, trying yoga, reading philosophy, going to temples, or simply sitting alone with a cup of tea, and finding peace in the stillness. What once seemed dull now becomes the anchor of the soul. Love also evolves at this age. It is no longer fiery like in your 20s, nor stiff like a duty. If you are still together, it is because of deep understanding. If you are not, then even separation comes in quiet grace. To those who owe you, you begin to release them. To those you hurt, you apologize, if you still have the chance. And if not, you learn the art of forgiving yourself. This is the phase when many finally touch something rare, inner freedom. You are no longer bound by others' gazes. You stop living by someone else's rules. You dress more simply. You speak less. You choose your circle with care, and you no longer feel the need to join every noisy conversation. From 42 to 49, the mind truly matures. Not because you know more, but because you choose when to remain silent. You walk away from arguments. You reach for a book instead of your phone. You cook, clean, garden, not out of duty, but as a quiet way to return to yourself. This is the golden window for changing your course if you choose to. Because after this cycle, things begin to slow down. The body slows. The mind softens. Vitality still exists, but not in abundance. But if you can learn now to live slower, deeper, more deliberately, the second half of your life will be filled with ease, clarity, and meaning. But if you continue chasing the external, pleasing others, clinging to outdated roles, you may find the road ahead wearying. To summarize Part 7. The phase from 42 to 49 is a time to reflect on your entire journey thus far, to redefine what truly matters, and to begin healing the wounds you've long ignored. If you know how to pause and readjust, this can become your awakening, the passage into a more luminous second half of life, as you gracefully step back from the spotlight and into the richness of inner stillness. When we sit down and look back at life through the lens of these 7-year cycles, we begin to realize that true maturity does not come from victories or status. It comes in those quiet, honest moments when we finally understand ourselves, release our bitterness, and learn to love life just as it is. Life may be a relentless cycle, but if we learn to count each step with awareness, then every part, good or bad, becomes valuable and beautifully balanced. We hope this reading has been a small light on the road you've traveled, the road you're walking now, and the road that lies ahead. Live each 7-year cycle with full presence, love, and compassion. Ancient Wisdom sincerely thanks you for listening to Part 1 of this reading on the 7-year cycles of human life. Part 2, exploring the path from age 49 onward and the spiritual awakening of the soul, will be shared with you very soon. If you found value in meeting in this video, please help us by clicking like and share so more people may benefit from this message. And don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we release a new video. May you and your loved ones always be blessed with peace, happiness, and abundant joy. Thank you for spending your time with us. See you again in our upcoming videos.